Kirk Johnson. I'm the president of the BMW Motorrad Club in Northern Illinois. In this video, I want to show you the steps that I take when I do my own valve service. Now, valve service is pretty involved. It could mean that you have to remove the camshafts, and if you do, that's just part of it. Anyways, this video is going to be geared towards the do-it-yourselfer, but sometimes it really helps to be able to visualize some of these parts that are mentioned in there. And in this video, I'm going to be going through all the steps that are necessary. Now, where I start this video is going to be that the fairing has already been removed. If you don't know how to remove your own fairings, or they're sometimes called Tupperware, these all the covers that are on the bike, there's going to be another video here linked where you can actually, you can watch that video first, see how you pull off the covers, at least the upper and the lower fairing panels, in order to access the valves. So the first thing to remember here on this bike too, on doing any valve service, no matter what bike it is, that you want the bikes to be at room temperature. Room temperature being somewhere, between say 72 and 90 degrees. So that way, when you adjust the valves, they're going to be in spec when the engine warms up. If you do appreciate the videos and the effort, and if it helped you out at all, please feel free to donate to our website here. That link is somewhere down here in the corner. I don't know which corner it's on, but you'll see a donate button down there, and you don't feel obligated to donate, but if you do donate, it would be very appreciated. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it. We're going to pull off the center cover first. This is going to expose the spark plugs, and then you can pull the plugs out at that time. I like to, you got to pull the plugs out to do this, because you're going to have to rotate the engine over, and you don't need all the compression fighting you. Then you pull off all these, and these screws, and then this cover will come off. Have an oil pan ready. You'll see an oil pan down here, because there's always, no matter how long your bike's been sitting, there's always going to be oil sitting right here, and it's going to fall out, and it will ruin your carpet if you got carpeted shop. So, like I said, I'm going to pull off this this cover here. If I can get the right tools. And you just pull this cover off. You reveal underneath the all of the plug wires. Now, really, before you start pulling wires off, try to just take a really good note of where they're at, like how they're routed in there, how each wire is routed in there. Usually, the wires will kind of take a set when when you pull them off, they'll stay kind of bent. You get an idea where they're at, and before you pull the wires off too, you want to make sure that they're numbered. Whether you have to number them yourself, or like these are the original BMW wires, they have numbers already on them. There's little numbers on here to tell you, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're not going to be able to see it very good in that video, but that's okay. Anyways, starting up at the front here, this is the number 1 cylinder, and it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So just take a note of it, a mental note, whatever. Take a picture if you have to, in case you're scared of screwing anything up. Basically, inside here there's all these little tabs and everything, and you don't want any wires when you put everything back together again. You don't want the wires to be rubbing on these tabs, because it'll cut a hole in it. Then you'll wind up with a misfire, and just generally bad running bike. I'm going to take the plugs out in case anything falls out, like dirt, stuff like that. I don't want anything going in the engine when I take those out. So I like to clean it up a little bit beforehand. If you got a compressor, use it to blow things out a little bit, get some of the dirt out of it. Alright. So to get the plug wires off, you're going to see there's little tabs on there. You can either use a needle nose plier, or if you got a hook tool of some kind, you can use that. You just hook it on there and pull straight off, and it will, and the plug wires will come off. See? Sometimes they're a little bit resistant. Mine have been off enough times that they're fine. And then go over and give your wires a good inspection as you pull these off. Sorry about that noise in the background. That's my compressor. Anyways, sometimes I'll have a little rub through area. These wires are really expensive, and I'm a cheapskate when it comes to buying stuff if I don't have to. So if your wires are still working good, you're not having any issues with it misfiring, or you got obvious arcing going on. Sometimes there's these little spots that are down in here will rub the wires, and I throw a little bit of electric tape on them just to try to help alleviate a little bit of that. So I'm gonna go through and just pull off the rest of these plug wires. I don't know if you can pick it up in the video or not, but there's a little number 1 here. That's number 2. And you got to pull these off in order to get this off, because there's a little area here where you got to fish all the wires and everything through. All right. Thing looks pretty good. So I got to take the plugs off. I think that's I don't know what size it is. 18, probably 16. Yeah. 16 millimeter. Now, one thing that's a little different about yours, you might have the Bosch plugs in yours. I've replaced the Bosch plugs with the NGK Iridiums. It's a DCPR7EIX. These work really, really good in these bikes. People have used Autolite plugs. There's other ones that cross into it. Feel free to use whatever you want. Just as long as it's the right heat range and everything. You can inspect them a little bit, as you pull them out. They look good. Yep, all looking real good. Nice tan color. Cocoa brown to tan color. I don't know if you can see the color in there. Maybe you can. They look very good. Now, the last time I did this, the valves, I had no adjustments. I have no idea if I'm going to have to adjust things or not. If I do, well, that'll be a bonus part of the video, because I'll have to pull the cams out and all that stuff, and you'll get to see how that's done too. Alright, so now we start pulling these off. I like to loosen them all up just a little bit first, so I don't want to stress the cover too much. When you put everything back, everything's got a torque value, so you'll have to, we'll go through that at the time, but for now, we're just taking stuff apart. Alright. You see these all have those little rubber grommets on them that seal up, keep things from leaking. There goes that oil I was talking about. Now there's a gasket on this thing that you will be able to reuse. Alright. Just fish those through there. And then set your cover aside. You can wipe it out, clean it up a little bit. So, just fish your wires through and move on. You got here, these are the cams. You got these cam lobes on each one. The top side's the intake, the bottom side's the exhaust. You know that because the exhaust pipes are down there. It's not too hard to figure out. Okay, next we're actually going to do the valve check now. So, alright, what I do is I take a chart. I make up a chart here. Let's see how this is made out. You got, this would be number 1 cylinder, 2, 3, 4. Intake, exhaust. And then the A, B side. So you got 2 valves per cylinder. Hence the 4 valve. Actually, there's 4 valves per cylinder. 2 intake, 2 exhaust. And I'm gonna start off on the intakes here. And the way we do that is you have to put the bike into 6th gear. Or 5th gear, whatever the top gear is, and you bump the tire in the direction of travel, and you'll see the cams will start to rotate. And as they do, as they come in line here, you want to get them so that they're pointing directly away from the valve. So you can see when you're looking at it on your motorcycle, the valves are not sticking straight out. They're not on an angle like this. They're more like this. They're pointing into the head on an angle. So you want to, you know, when you get these valves pointing, you just get them straight, pointing straight away from the valve tappets, the little caps that go on there. The clearance that we're looking for is between a 0.15 millimeter and a 0.20 millimeter. I have a metric one here. You don't need to use a metric one. You can use the standard feeler gauge because they always have the millimeters printed on them as well. I just happened to find this at a garage sale. Paid like $2 for it, so that's what I'm going to use. So anyway, got to get it into gear here and then do the check. So now we start bumping the rear tire. I've put it into the last gear. You just start giving it a bump and you can see everything starting to move here. Okay, those two are pointing. Not quite there yet. They got to be pointing up on a little bit of an angle here on the intakes. There we go. They don't have to be absolutely perfect. So then we take our feeler gauge here and we start with 0.15 and we slip it up underneath between the valve here and the back of the cam lobe. So we check both sides and we want to make sure that there's a little bit of resistance going here. You don't want it to slip in too loose. You want to be able to feel just a little bit of slight resistance, and that's exactly what I feel here is 0.15. So anyways, as I was saying, these things are not, there's no way to adjust these things absolutely perfect. They have to be between 0.15 and 0.20. So if it slips in really easy, then you try to slip in your 0.20, and if you cannot get it in there, which this one I can't because this one I feel just slight resistance, so my guess is it's probably about a 0.16 or so, somewhere in there. They're exactly correct on this one. And that's all there is to checking these. So we'll go down the line, we'll check each one. We have to rotate the tire around. I've got my foot over on the tire. You can't see it, but I'm kind of laying on the ground here and I got my foot on it so I can bump these. Go ahead and write down on your chart that the A The A one was okay. This one was okay. I like to just put in a little bit of a guess as to where they were at. Like I said, it was about a 0.16. I'm going to keep going here. That one's good. Right there, it's perfect. This one feels a little bit more loose to the 0.15. There's not a whole lot there. But 0.20, I still can't get 0.20 in there. So remember that's the top of the scale. So that one checks out. Does feel very good. No, can't get it in there. No way. So number 3 is in good shape. Goes in. That one. This one's a little more loose than this side, but I think we're going to be in good shape here. Well, I can just get the 0.20 in on this one. On this side, it's still stuck. Okay, moving on. We're going to do the exhaust valves next. Let me tilt that camera just a little bit. Now these valves are on a little bit of a different angle. These are now pointing more in the down direction, where these are kind of pointing up. So before I came in at the top, or I'm from the bottom, and was able to get them in there on a flat, pretty flat plane. Now I'm going to have to come in through the top side to be able to check these out. Again, these valves need to fall in line between 0.25 millimeter and 0.30 millimeter. So get them in line. Check it out. Slip it in there. It feels good. So that's 0.25 and it goes right in there. No problems. So now we'll try the 0.30. It's very sticky. It does go. This one's even more sticky. So this cylinder is in good shape. Next one, roll around. That one seems kind of loose on 0.25. Looks like there's plenty of clearance here. That one goes in a little easier than the last one did. This one doesn't go in at all. So I'm going to recheck this one just to see how far it really is out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double up some leaves to equal it out to up to 31 or 32 and see if that slips in there. If it does, then I know I'm going to have to change out that bucket behind there. So I'm going to use a 20, a 0.07 and a 0.04. That'll get me up to 31. And if these slip in there, then I know I'm going to more than likely have to change this thing out. Well, boy, no, it's not really going in. It's bending up the real thin leaf, so I can't get that in there. So that one is just sitting right at spec. That's definitely going to be at one that I'll have to keep an eye on for next time. I think I'm going to wind up changing that one out too. So I got this one here and this one here are really close. I may go back after I'm done here and just check them one more time. This bike has 44,000 miles on it right now. So I would imagine that the next time I do this, if I can get away with not changing anything right now, the next time I do this I'm going to wind up swapping buckets out, and that's the way it is. Continuing on here. That's 0.25. There's a little bit of resistance, not much. So again, that 0.25 on these, remember that the lower number is really the more important one than anything. You can have them a little bit too loose. It's not going to hurt anything. They may make a noise occasionally, like especially when it's cold out, you might hear your valves tapping. It's because, you know, they're at that larger end of the spectrum. You don't want to have them too tight, because what will happen is, as the engine heats up, these tolerances become smaller and smaller, and it will hold the valve open, and then you'll definitely get backfiring, things like that. Very poor performance. They're designed to work within that narrow spectrum. That one just doesn't really even go at all. So 0.30, these are good. So as the engine heats up, that tolerance will get a little bit tighter and it runs better. And as you probably have experienced on your own, you know that as the engine warms up, it runs better. I'm going to roll over the last one, check it out. Alright, 0.25. Goes in there. 0.25. Goes in that side fine. 0.30. Can't get it in. Can't get it in. So that one's really in good shape. I went back through these ones that showed at least 0.30. This is the B side on the number 1. I went through the A side on number 2, and also the A side on number 3, because they all showed 0.30. They were all almost on the wide end of it. And after doing a lot of feeler gauging in there, it shows up that this one is clearly out of spec. It is 0.34. This one is 0.35. This one is 0.33. So I'm going to have to take this cam out, and I'm going to have to either swap these around or buy some new buckets for it. I was hoping I didn't have to do that. My next video, I'm going to show the process of going through this. So check out the next video. How to actually adjust your valves.